Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Bald Metal Nerd coming at you with yet another non-controversial video. In this video, I am going to be covering Christianity, or and religion in American society. Um, Now, in my last video, I covered the recent Indiana Religious Freedom Restoration Act, and I figured, a logical next step would be to talk about the intersection of religion and American society. Um, but a lot of this could apply to other Western nations where religiosity is fairly high and religion has a big impact on their culture as well. Now, this isn't universal. Not all of this will apply everywhere. Some of it is unique to this country, but a lot of it will apply in a lot of different places. So take that as you want to. Now, I'm going to start off by talking about the positive effects that religion has on our society. Now, the single largest positive effect that I can think of off the top of my head is the vast charitable work that a lot of churches do. And of course, most commonly, that is, feeding the hungry and homeless, giving them financial assistance, all sorts of things. Churches can certainly do lift a lot of people up. And I absolutely applaud those efforts. That's really great that they help out in that way. Another large positive aspect that they have is they can be very positive social networks for a lot of people because there are in a lot of churches a lot of good people, and if you interact with a lot of good people on a regular basis, good things can happen to you, and that's vital. Positive social networks are vital for anyone. Um, Now, if that's all I had to say about religion, I guess I would generally say, hey, churches and religion are good. I might make some offhand comment about it or whatever, but of course, that's not the end. That's just the beginning. I just thought I would start with the positives. Now I'm going to get into the negatives. And the first negative that I'm going to bring up is any politician at all that has any sort of national aspirations, such as president is of course the biggest one I can think of. But a lot of senators and congressmen too. They must publicly profess their Christianity in order to be elected most of the time. Because let's be honest, if we ever had a politician say they were anything but Christian, they wouldn't get elected in this country. Um, we would never have say a Jewish person or a Hindu or a Buddhist or those they would never get elected. They'd be like, oh no, they're not Christian, we can't elect them. You know. Now I know there's a lot of ignorant fools out there who say, oh, I think Obama must be a Muslim. Damn that Kenyan. I think that more has to do with racism than anything else, but that's a whole separate issue. Um, you know, it, your religion as a politician should be completely irrelevant. In my opinion, what religion you are has no bearing on what kind of a job you're going to do as a public servant. It should be completely irrelevant. But it's not in this country. It's just reality. Now, the main problem with that is now the Republicans are much more guilty of this than the Democrats, and that is a lot of Republicans will do things to appeal to their conservative base. They will pass legislation to discriminate against folks. That religious freedom bill that I just talked about in the intro is a most recent example of it. Um, and they're constantly trying to chip away at certain things to appease the very conservative religious folks out there. Now, some Democrats do it too, but the Republicans are the much bigger offenders of that. Now, the excuse me. Now, a lot of Christians would say this is all well and good because we're a Christian nation. I'm sorry, if you believe that, you're a fucking moron and you're fucking delusional. And the reason I say that is because if you look up what our founding fathers said, you'll find many, many statements by them that would indicate the opposite. One of the most famous ones being a quote from George Washington in the Treaty of Tripoli. He said in there, it says, "In no way is the government of the United States based on the Christian religion." Our founding fathers wanted, our country, as a country, at least the government side of it, to have absolutely nothing to do with Christianity, because they knew it would be a huge disaster if it did. Let's pretend for a minute that, let's say the extreme Christian folks got their truest wish and said, we became a Christian nation governed by Christian laws. What would that mean? Would we then force everyone to go to church and be Christian? Because, anyone who's not a Christian is going to hell, right? I mean, that's what the religion teaches. So we damn well better make sure everyone goes to church and becomes Christian. Is that what would happen? What would happen if people refused to do it? Would we exile them, kill them? What would we do? Would we stone adulterers? Would we burn suspected witches again? What sort of fun time activities would we have? Because there are theocracies in the Middle East, and I don't think any reasonable person would want to live there. But whoa, stop, you Christians say. It says, "In God we trust on our money," and it has "under God" in the Pledge of Allegiance. And if we weren't a Christian nation, why would those things be there? Well, those things were actually added in the 1950s as part of the Red Scare as a response to godless communism. It's basically a freak out, type thing. The end on that. Now, just bear with me. I just gotta find my next point here. It's the fun of doing these long videos. You gotta refer to notes. Now, the last thing I'm gonna talk about in the way that government and religion intersect is the fact that churches are tax exempt. Wow is all I can say, because as a whole, taxes have a huge amount of money in this country. Now, I know that there are a lot of small churches out there that struggle to get by and lose money. So this does not apply to all churches. But there are also a large number of churches that are very rich, own a lot of property, bring in millions of dollars. It's a huge business. Yes, business. If it was not a business, there would not be so many churches around, because there needs to be money for them to exist. So they are a business. I'm sorry, they are. Now, if these things are if these churches are raking in millions and millions of dollars, why am I having to subsidize them? That infuriates me. Now, it's just one more thing that I have to subsidize. It's not like churches are the only thing that I have to subsidize. I also have to subsidize corporate welfare, which pisses me off. It's just one more thing. But that's, neither here nor there. It's a whole... I could go on and on about that, but I'm not going to. Needless to say, I don't agree with them being tax exempt. Now, after that, I'm going to talk about, I think, how it negatively impacts our larger society. And the bigger thing that it does is, at least religious fundamentalism causes people to reject science. Statements such as, "Well, I know the earth is only 6,000 years old because that's what it says in the Bible," blah, blah, blah. And you're just rejecting science, because if you accept scientific fact that challenges your beliefs, I think the reason people are so scared to do this, or a lot of people are, is because if you accept that your faith is wrong about one thing, well, shit, does that mean it's all bullshit? Does that mean, if the earth is not only 6,000 years old, does that ultimately lead you to believe that there's no God? Is your religious faith that shaky? Is it built on a house of cards that if you take one thing away, down it goes? Now, I know this doesn't apply to everyone. I know there's a lot of religious people out there who accept science and believe that the earth is billions of years old, the scientific fact and all that. I know not all I'm not trying to say all religious people believe this, but a fairly large number do. Now, another way that we negatively, but before I get off that subject, in my opinion, any society that rejects science on the scale that we do is going to be in some trouble. But that's, that I'm done with that. The next thing I'm going to say is throughout American history, churches have used religion to, as a justification to discriminate against certain people. Of course, until fairly recently, right up before and through the civil rights movement, a lot of churches used it to discriminate against the blacks, of course. That was a big thing. Now, of course, not all churches were like that, and a lot of churches were the opposite. A lot of churches said, hey, everyone's equal. So I know it wasn't universal, but a lot of churches did use that to just try to discriminate. And of course, nowadays, it's the gays. The gays are the current target of that discrimination. Now, again, I know this is not universal. And in fact, it's so prevalent in certain areas, like it's not uncommon in small towns in the countryside to hear a fair amount of the population say, well, I think gays should be killed. Or if my kid's gay, I would disown them. Things like that. And of course, now to be fair, people in those areas tend to say the same thing about black people. It's not just the gays, but it's certainly more popular to hate the gays, more socially acceptable. Now, if it ever becomes socially unacceptable to hate the gays, I'm sure that basically anyone who's non-religious or whatever would probably be the next target because they're a fairly small amount of people. It is growing, but it's still a fairly small amount of people in this country. I'm sure they would probably be the next target of this. Now, just bear with me, guys. Going through my notes again. Now, again, I'm not saying that all churches participate this or all religious people believe these things. I would never paint that large of a group of people with, such a broad stroke. But the fact of the matter is, a fair number of them do. Otherwise, I never would have made this video. If it was just one or two crazy people isolated, I never would have said this. But the fact of the matter is, there are millions of people who have these beliefs. It's a fairly large number of them. Just like there's a fairly large number, like let's say, to use another religion that's not Christianity, let's say just 1% of Muslims are extremists. That's still a shitload of them, right? That's neither here nor there, though. Moving on. Why do I think religion in our society are so intertwined? Well, really, there's two main reasons. The biggest one, of course, being tradition. Most people in this country identify as Christian. So, as tradition, most people are going to continue with that. Just as tradition. You're brought up that way to believe it. You're going to continue on with it for the most part. So that's a huge part of it. And another big part of it, I think, is religion offers a very basic human need. People are afraid of death. It's a natural thing to be afraid of. And religion offers some relief from that. And as long as, as the tradition holds out and people fear death, I'm sure religion will hang on. So probably more or less forever. I don't know for sure that it'll last that long, but it doesn't look like it's, ever going to totally go away. Now, to conclude this thing, do I think our society would be better off without religion than it is with it? That's really hard to say. It's a very complicated question. I can't say for sure yes. And the reason I'm not going to say yes is because all of the positive and negative aspects of it would probably manifest itself in different ways in our society if religion didn't exist. It would just create a vacuum that would just be filled by other things. The reason I say that is because human nature. Humans are humans. Some of us are really good. Some of us are really bad. But most of us are somewhere in the middle, just the way it is. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think we'd be better off with or without religion? Why or why not? Anyway, if you liked what you see, please thumbs up, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.